Nikki and I have made it. This is Death Valley. It signifies our real push heading east. We spent the last week visiting friends in Lake Tahoe. Spent a couple of days camping just below Mount Whitney, which is off that way, with a friend that came up from LA, my friend Steve. We had a great 2 days of just hanging out is really what we did. And this really does signify our first push east. We're going to head up to Tonopah today and then on to Ely. From there we're going to stay with a friend in Sandy and then on over to stay with friends in Boulder and Denver. So if you happen to know somebody in between Sandy and Denver, such as Steamboat Springs, where it's going to get down in the 20s, it would be nice to have a place to stay with a friend there that would we might be able to enjoy their company for a day or so. So if you know that person, please feel free to give us a heads up and let us know so we can contact them. Now, being out here in Death Valley, this is big land. This is a big country. It's the second largest national park in the United States, second only to Denali up in Alaska. And as I was looking at all the brochures and looking at the map, trying to figure out where's the best place to stay in Death Valley, we chose this spot, which is Mesquite Springs, just right near a place called Scotty's Castle that we're going to go and visit today on our way up to Tonopah. Being here reminds me of a story many years ago, because one of the pictures I saw on their little brochure that explains all about Death Valley, and it was a picture of a rattlesnake. And this reminds me of a story. When I was first married, Annie and I, we loaded up our Volkswagen bus and we headed on a 6-month trip around the 7 western United States looking for a place to live. We had gone north in February, which wasn't the wisest idea because we woke up in Big Sky, Montana one morning at 2 below zero. It took me an hour to scrape the ice off the windows, and that was just on the inside. We headed on down, and we finally ended up working our way back up to a little town just outside of Sacramento, which was our origination point, called Jackson, California. And I had gotten a job in a lumber yard, and fortunately a friend offered us his 5-acre piece of ground outside of Jackson where we could set up our tent and we could stay there until we found housing. And so one evening I was playing catch with my dog Kelsey, and as the ball rolled down the side and she went after it, we heard this the little rattles. And fortunately I was able to get her to stop. She didn't go after the snake. Annie got the dogs up into the bus and got them set away, and I kept my eye on the snake as it worked its way on up over to this wood pile that was there near where we camped. And I knew that if that snake got in there, we'd never know when it got out, we'd never know when it wanted to come and find us or any of that kind of stuff, so there was that little bit of a fear. And so this snake had come along just up nearby where the wood pile was, and there was this long branch. It must have been, probably 20-25 feet long. And as the snake got up, it just kind of snuggled right up against this branch. And Annie was over here near where we cooked our food and where our tent was, standing on a chair. She thought that was going to keep her safe. So I had already had her run up to our neighbors, and there she got a couple of shovels and brought those down. So I now have a shovel in my hand. I've got a pine tree to my left, another pine tree here, and another one in front of me with this branch again running right down in between us with a snake laid right up against it. So I've got a shovel, and this snake's not moving, and I'm getting a little bit impatient. My heart's kind of pumping a little bit, in anticipation of the battle upcoming. So I said to Annie, hey, move this stick. Well, getting her off that chair was not an easy task, but I says, you've got to move it so he'll get to move. So sure enough, she steps off her chair, comes over, grabs the end of the branch, which is quite a ways back there, and she shakes it a little bit, and the snake comes out, and I take my first stab. And I'm that far, just that far in front of his nose. And I pull back and I get behind the tree, and now my heart's pumping a little bit harder because he's now slid right back up against that branch, and I know I can't plow through that branch and get him. So I wait a little bit until my heart starts calming down a little bit, and I say, Annie, you got to grab the branch again and move it a little bit. And sure enough, she does that, and the snake comes back out, and I take my next plunge, and sure enough, I'm that far in front of it again. Oh, I pull back and I'm leaning up against the branch, and my heart is now going like this. It's going to kill me. I don't stand a chance. So finally, it doesn't wait very long. I don't understand why, but it doesn't wait very long, and it moves back out. And I take my next one, and I go after it like that, and sure enough, I'm that far, right behind his head. And now that tail is squirming all over the place. It's jumping all over. It's trying to catch my leg. It's trying to catch the shovel, and it's just jumping. And the mouth is going like this, spitting, spitting, spitting. And my heart is now going like this because it's trying to catch me. And I'm just, Well, finally, the snake stops its moving and all of that stuff, and stops its spitting and hissing and all of those things, and my heart has finally calmed down a little bit to where I can actually take a breath and figure out what needs to be done next. So a little bit later on that afternoon, I've got the snake, and I'm talking to the Schroeders, our neighbors next door, and I've laid it out on the back of the pickup truck on the tailgate there, thinking I'm going to have a trophy rattlesnake skin and the rattles to go along with it that I can put on my cowboy hat, right? So while I'm telling the all about this, she says, well, you know, they like their mates come looking for them. And sure enough, the next morning when we got up, that snake was no longer there. Now, I don't know if a raccoon or a squirrel or something else got at it, but because of what Mrs. Schroeder told me, I figured her mate was coming after me. Well, it wasn't but a couple of days later that I found a job in Sacramento, and we moved to the big city. So that's my story and how it relates to Death Valley. So enjoy. We're on our way east. Get in touch with us. Let us know if you've got friends along the way. We'd love to stop and visit. Until then.